All right, so the plan is to work through, hey, guys, like I'm sort of doing this recording thing, but it's still going to be distracting for you guys to be talking. So let's, can you keep it down? I'm guessing 10 minutes tops. Maybe not tops, just a guess. All right, so the plan here is to just go over basic introduction for our class and work through each one of the shapes on the letter side of the green sheet. First, a couple of settings that most of you have already seen. And under the Tools tab at the top, under Application Options, you want to set Sketch. You want to turn on grid lines and turn on Auto Project Edges for sketch creation and edit, which will by default be off. Also change the colors to Millennium and Gradient. And that is for two reasons. One, it'll match my screen and I'll be able to say, you know, click on the purple line or whatever. Also, when you sit down to at a new computer, if the background is gray, you know all the other settings were reset also. And so we'll start with a new part file. And the first one we're going to do is part A, which we're going to do subtractive, I guess, method of starting out with a big chunk. And this is the method that we'll do for most of the parts, where we start with a big chunk, the maximum dimension in all three dimensions, and then cut away what we don't want. And we'll be doing this with each isometric grid 1 inch instead of 1/4 inch, which is what it says at the top of the sheet. And so the first sketch we need to make is this front, which is 5 by 8, and we need to extrude it 5. So we'll go start 2D sketch and get a 2-point rectangle and dimension that to 8 wide and 5 tall. Hit home on the keyboard to zoom out. Wait, that's supposed to be 5 tall. And finish sketch and extrude it 5. And the next part, let's cut out the L. And we could do this a couple ways. We could, well, we're going to need to make a rectangle in the top right corner of the front face, but we could dimension the length of this line to get the height, or we could dimension the distance from the bottom. In other words, like dimensioning the remainder, it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't matter. So we'll do like this, and because we need a remainder of 2 on each side, that's how we're going to dimension the rectangle. But we need to start this rectangle from the top right, and this dimensioning is the 3-click dimensioning, where your first click is on one line. Well, you have to think about it as, what are we actually dimensioning? We're dimensioning the location of this side of our new rectangle, and it should be the distance from the line to the edge. First click, second click, third click in between. And the same thing here, first click, second click, third click in between. And we'll finish sketch, extrude, choose the rectangle that we want to cut and switch it to cut. And through all is best practice, but anything 5 or bigger for this is fine. That's our first cut. Second cut is going to be this rectangle here, which is 2 by 4, cut all the way through, and we're going to draw that rectangle right here. But the key is that we can do that same thing where we're dimensioning the remainder, and the remainder here is 1.5. It's 1.5 here. Those are each 1.5, and it's 2 here, and that's all we need to know, so long as our rectangle is flush against this edge. So we're going to start a sketch on this face, and you don't have to rotate it, but I think of shape more in this direction. And so I'm going to do this rectangle here, make sure I don't snap it to the corner or to the center point, because I won't be able to dimension it then. And let's dimension the distance from here to here. as 1.5, and the distance from here to here as 1.5, and you can sort of see where we're getting those dimensions. When you are in sketch mode and the grids are up, you should really be looking at it straight on, but just to give you an idea of where things are. And then this last part is 2 from the edge, and you can tell you are done dimensioning if it says fully constrained. And we have that. So now we can finish sketch, extrude, choose our new rectangle, switch to cut, and again, it doesn't, 5 inches is the same as 1,000,000, is the same as through all. And the last bit is a rectangle here that is 1 by 3 and 1 inch from the side. And we'll do a rectangle here. That is, and we'll just dimension the rectangle, but let's see, 3 wide, 1 tall. You can see 1 dimension needed down at the bottom. It means we need to dimension the location of the rectangle, which distance from one side to the side of everything is 1. And we'll finish sketch, extrude, choose, make sure we choose the rectangle we want to cut, switch to cut, through all, hit OK. And there's part A. Okay, new part. We're going to go through these in alphabetical order, but that's not necessarily the order of difficulty, but we'll figure it out as we go. This one I'm going to do this in a single sketch. Well, no, that's not true. It's going to be 1 sketch and extrusion for the block, which it's actually 5 tall and 8 wide. But it's kind of difficult. The isometric lines sort of are more difficult to see when they are not an integer in height. They're 2.5 tall here, and this line is 2.5. So the total height is 5. So it's 5 by 8 extruded 5 for our starting sketch. Rectangle. 5 this way, excuse me, 8 that way, 5 this way. And finish sketch, extrude, choose that, switch, extrude it 5. And then we can do the cutaways in a single step. Just like the last cut on part A, we have a small rectangle or shallow rectangle here. That's 1 tall, 6 wide, and 1 from the side. So it's going to be something like that. And then we have symmetrical rectangles here that will start in the top corners, and they're 2.5 tall and 2 wide, which you can tell from the size of like the remainder there. And we can do all 3 of those rectangles on the same sketch because they are all extruded the same distance, which is cut all. So we have 1 rectangle here, 1 rectangle here, and 1 rectangle that's just across the bottom. And so this needs to be 2.5 tall and 2 wide. Same thing over here, 2.5 by 2. And this is 6 wide by 1 tall and 1 inch from the side. 3 click dimensioning there. And we can finish sketch, extrude, choose this, choose this, choose this, switch to cut, through all, hit OK, and there you go, part B. Next one, part C. We'll do this in 3 steps. 1 step for the entire block, which is 6 by 9, extruded 4. Then a 3 by 4 rectangle, cut extruded 2. And then we'll do a 2 by 2 rectangle on the top and cut extrude all the way through. So we'll do new part, sketch on XY plane because that's the front. And we're going to make this 9 wide and 6 tall. Finish sketch, extruded, and extrude it 4. Then we'll start a sketch over here. top left corner, and we need to dimension the height to 3, the width to 4, and finish sketch. Extrude, choose that, switch it to cut, and we only want to cut 2 towards the back. Then for the other one, we'll put a sketch here. I'm going to spin it to look at it this way. And the cut is going to go here. And you'll see sort of where we're sketching in this front top right corner. And we'll dimension it to 2 wide and 2 tall. And we'll finish sketch, extrude, choose that, switch it to cut, and we do want to cut through all on this one. There's part C. We'll get through all of them, don't worry. D. D is, I'm going to do it in 2 steps, but no cutting, just creating. First step, I'm going to make a rectangle that's 2 tall and 6 wide and extrude it 7. No, wait, 2 tall and 7 wide, extruded 6. And that's important to note because that's just going to make this small sort of bottom step. But these 2 blocks that pop up on top are, their long side is on the shorter side of the base. But we'll figure this out. Let's make a rectangle that is 7 wide and 2 tall. And we'll that looks like that. It's pretty wide. Finish sketch and extrude it 6. I'm doing a recording, like I'm trying to get a.
Wait, so you're recording right now?
This is a 1 take. Yeah, thanks. All right, so then we need to do a. We're going to do both of those blocks on top, and they are 2 by 3, but they are 2 by 3, 3 this way and 2 this way. And same thing over here, 3 this way and 2 that way, where it's very easy to put them on the other side and have them be wrong. So let's put a sketch on top. And again, for some reason, it always twists sort of 90 degrees off of the way that I think of things, but I mean, that's up to you. Either way, we have 1 rectangle there and another one there. And we'll dimension these. They both need to be 2 wide and 3, well, 2 that direction. Technically 2 wide and 3 deep because of what face we started on, but not super critical. And we'll extrude that, and they are just a height of 2. And there you go, part B. New part, part E. Okay, part E is, we'll do the full block this time again, 5 tall and 8 wide, extruded 5. Then we will cut out sort of the L shape, which is a 3 by 3 rectangle or square here, and cut it all the way across. And then the last part is kind of tricky where we'll put a sketch on this step, but the rectangle needs to be taller than the snap that you'll get automatically. Otherwise, this cutout won't be correct. So we'll start a sketch and let's make a basic rectangle for our block. And it needs to be, what do we say, 8 wide, 5 tall. Finish sketch, extrude it 5. Okay, then we're going to put a sketch on the side here that on the top front corner needs to be 3 by 3. And finish sketch, extrude, choose that, switch it to cut through all. Okay, and then we'll start a sketch here to do that undercut part. And it is important that the height of this cut, because this rectangle we're drawing here on this face, but it needs to cut all the way through. And if you draw that rectangle so its height is on this front edge, the cut through won't be that extra one tall. I suppose you could do it in 2 steps, but there's no reason to. Okay, so we're already sketching on this front. We need a rectangle that's flush with the bottom, but needs to be taller than this. Otherwise, you won't be able to dimension it. You actually need to create the rectangle that size. And the rectangle is 4 wide, 3 tall, and the distance from the side of the rectangle to the side of everything is 2. And we'll finish sketch, extrude. Make sure you choose only the parts you want to cut. Switch it to cut and through all, hit OK. Part E. New part. F. Okay, F we can do very similar to part E. Start with a chunk that across the face is 6 tall and 2, 4, 2, 8 wide. And extruded 5. Start with a sketch and rectangle. 8 wide, 6 tall, finish sketch, extrude, and it is 5 front to back. Then let's do this L-shaped cut, which is just like part E, where we'll put a sketch on the side that is 4 tall and 2 deep, and cut extrude all the way across. Oh, no, that's not what I want. I want sketch on the side. That on the top front, we can have a rectangle that is 4 wide, 4 tall, 2 deep. Finish sketch, extrude, choose that, switch it to cut, and through all. Okay, and the last part feature is we could put a rectangle on this face, and that rectangle needs to be 3 tall, 4 wide, 2 from the side, and the cut is 1.5. So we'll start a sketch right here. Rectangle needs to be flush to the top. And I say 3 tall, 4 wide, and the distance from the side of the rectangle to the side of everything is 2. And we'll finish sketch, extrude, and choose that, switch it to cut, and the cut distance is 1.5. Okay, part F. Okay, for part G, the way we're going to do is we're just going to create 3 blocks. First block is 3 tall and 2 wide, and we're going to extrude it 5. Then we're going to draw a rectangle that is sort of the side of G and extrude it this way. And then we're going to draw a rectangle that's this other side and extrude it 2 more. So let's start with the front face. Rectangle is 2 wide and 3 tall. And we'll finish sketch, extrude, and extrude it 5. Okay, that's sort of the left arm shape. And we'll put a sketch here and a rectangle that is taller than what we have, but not wider or technically deeper. And that is that the dimensions of that need to be the height of this part and the depth, which is 5 tall and 6 tall and 3 deep. And we're going to extrude it 4. We're going to bring it out to the right a distance of 4. And so we need to look at this from the side, and we'll dimension this to 6 tall and 3 deep. And let's extrude this 2 part, and let's extrude it 4. And then the last portion, again, we're just going to make a rectangle on the side, and this rectangle needs to be starting from this back edge, 5 to the front and 3 tall, and then pull it out a distance of 2. Start a 2D sketch on this side, rectangle from the bottom here, and needs to be 5 front to back and 3 tall. And we'll finish sketch and extrude this, and we only need to extrude it 2. And there you go, part G. New part, part H is a little trickier, I think. Not terrible. Okay, we'll do the full block, which is 2 6 tall and 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 wide, and extrude it 5. Rectangle 9 wide, 6 tall, finish sketch, and extrude it, what do we say, 5? Okay, and this has to be done in 2 steps because of just the way extrusions work. We're going to put 1 sketch on the front and draw the rectangle over here. That is 3 wide and 4 tall, and extrude it all the way through. We'll do that first. And then the next step will be putting a sketch on the top, which is going to be a combination of 2 rectangles like that, and extruding its height, or the height of the cut at least. And so we'll start 2D sketch here, and we need a rectangle that starts here in the bottom left corner. And the height is 4, the width is 3, and we'll finish sketch, extrude, choose that, switch it to cut, cut all. Okay, and the next part, we're going to put a sketch, like I said, on the top, made of 2 rectangles. This one is 3 this way, and well, you can see this is the shape that we're making. This what ends up being the step, but we need to draw it up here and extrude it down a height of 4. And we're going to make this shape with 1 rectangle that's 3 this way and 4 that way, starting in this corner, 4 this way, 3 that way and 4 this way. And then another rectangle starting in this corner that's 1 left to right and 2 towards the front. So 1 that way and 2 that way. So let us start a sketch here and rotate it, get a rectangle from here. And this rectangle needs to be 4 this way, 3 this way, and then another rectangle from here, which we can snap to the corner. And if we snap this to the other line right there, we don't have to dimension the height, because when we snap it to that line, it's going to be locked in as 2. Just make sure you don't snap it to the middle point of this line. And then we need to dimension the width of this rectangle. And we're going to do that with a 3-step or 3-click, the distance of from here to here, hit the wrong button, the distance from here, first click, here, second click, and third click in between needs to be 1. And we'll finish sketch, extrude, choose that, and choose that, and switch it to cut. And our cut is 4 down from the top. Hit OK. There you go, part H. Part I and J, we're going to do with just lines. And the key to the line tool is making a line, dimension it, making a line, dimension it. Don't make the entire shape and then go through dimensioning, because it may guess the wrong way to extend the lines. So just to save you some trouble, do it all, draw a line, dimension it, draw a line, dimension it. So our dimensions here are going to be, 9 across the bottom. So we'll draw a horizontal line that's 9, a vertical line that is 6, vertical line that's 2, a horizontal line that's 5. And then for any slanted line, we don't need to dimension it, because if you know where a line starts and where it ends, that's all you need to know. We don't need to figure out the angle of the line or the length of the line, its angle off a vertical, or that is one way to dimension and constrain a sloped line, but we don't need to, because we're going to use regular dimensions. So we'll do a horizontal line, get the dimension tool. Wait, make sure, not like this. Make sure you snap it to horizontal, otherwise it won't work. So we'll get a line, draw a horizontal of any length, because we're going to dimension it. This line needs to be 9. And then another line. And for those of you who have been doing click, drag, release, it will not, well, if you do that here, it won't work, because if you click to start your line and drag it, it will give you an arc, which is not what you want. You actually have to click to start a line, like full mouse down, mouse up, move your cursor, and click to set the line. We'll dimension this to 6, and we'll do another line from here straight up, and this line needs to be 2. And you can see as you go along, it's going to say fully constrained, and that's the goal. We'll need a horizontal line, lock to horizontal. This needs to be 5. And as long as your line, first click, snap to a green, the green dot means that it's locked in, not just on that line, but the end point of that line. First click. And the second click is the green snap at the end point of this line. And finish sketch. And we need to extrude it, its depth, which is 4. And there you go, part I. Part J is much trickier. It's going to be just like a single sketch with a single extrusion. And we're only going to use the line tool. But the tricky part is that this sloped line, in order to know this slope line or this one, we need to know where it starts and where it finishes. And we don't know where it finishes until we do this part here. But we're going to start with what we know, concretely. We know that we can draw a horizontal line that's 11, a vertical line, a couple vertical lines that are 6, and a couple horizontal lines that are 2. And then we'll worry about the next part. So we're going to sketch XY plane, line tool, starting at 0, 0, draw a horizontal line, make sure it snaps to horizontal. This needs to be 11. And then first click here, vertical, we'll set that to 6. And line tool. This needs to be 6. And then a couple of horizontal ones that are here that are 2. And another line from here that is 2. And like I said, normally we would just work our way around to try and find the other part, but we don't know where to click here. So we need to create this sort of trough shape thing here, which is just 3 1-inch lines. But once we draw a 1-inch line, a 1-inch line, another 1-inch line, all snap to horizontal or vertical, we still are going to need to tell it where it needs to be, which in this case, the bottom needs to be 2 inches off the bottom of everything. and the left side needs to be 5 from the side of everything. So let's go ahead, line tool, just make something that looks roughly right, like this. Most importantly, snapping to vertical or horizontal. And this needs to be one this way. This needs to be one this way. This needs to be one this way. And the 2 dimensions that are needed are the distance from the bottom of this to the bottom of everything. That needs to be 2. And the distance from the left side to the left side of everything needs to be 5. You can see it says fully constrained. And now we can draw our sloped lines because we know where the lines start and where they finish. And like I said before, you don't need to dimension the length of this line. You don't need to dimension the angle of this line. It's all built in to our existing dimensions. And once we have that, fully constrained, finish sketch, extrude, and extrude it 3 front to back. Okay, only 2 more. K is pretty simple. We'll do the full block, which is 6 by 8, I think, and extruded 5. And then we'll do simple rectangle, 4 tall, 6 wide, and extruded 3. And then we have a sloped line that we'll do a cut extrusion on. So let's do a new part, sketch, face of the front, like I said, is 6 tall, 8 wide, finish sketch, and extrude it. What did I just say? 5, 6. No, 5. Extrude it 5. Okay. Then the L part is 4 tall and 6 wide. Four tall, 6 wide, and let's cut extrude it. Its distance front to back, which is 3. Finish sketch, extrude, choose this, and change the cut distance to 3. Yep, switch it to cut and other direction. Yeah, hit OK. And then the last part is a slanted line. So we're going to put a sketch on this face, and the sloped line we need to create snaps to this bottom corner. So we don't need to dimension the endpoint of this line here, but we're going to draw it up this way, and the other endpoint will connect to, or will be 2 away from here. So we will need a dimension from endpoint to endpoint, and, or yeah, from the corner to the endpoint of the line. So we'll put a sketch here, we'll get a line, and we're going to snap it to this bottom corner here. And the other snap needs to be the top edge, but don't snap it to the middle point of this top edge. You'll get a green, you should get a green snap somewhere on the top edge. I don't know why it's not doing that. Yeah. And don't snap it to the corner here. Just put it right there-ish. And once again, you can see where we are sketching roughly. And guys, almost done. And so we want to dimension the distance from here to this corner. Well, it's really to this side here. I don't know why it's not giving me a snap there. That's strange. But it's that distance. Okay, so you can do that too. You can dimension the distance from a point to a line or to an edge. It works the same way, and that needs to be 2. And we'll finish sketch, extrude, choose this side, and switch it to cut and cut all. And that is part K. And next is, and finally, is part L. And part L will do the full chunk, which is how tall is it? It's 6 tall, I think. Is it 6? Yeah, 6 tall and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9 wide, extruded 4. So we'll start a sketch on the XY plane, get a rectangle, 9 wide and 6 tall, finish sketch, extrude 4. And next, what we're going to do is draw a line. Well, we'll put a sketch on the front. Oh, that's not what I want. Put a sketch on the front here and draw a slanted line. And we're going to dimension the locations of the endpoints of the line. So first click, well, we'll do a sketch. And this endpoint needs to be 2 from this side. And this endpoint needs to be 6 from the side, dimensioning. And let's start a sketch on the front. Get a line from the top edge to the bottom edge, not snapping to center points. And that's not what I meant to do. Not finished sketch yet. Dimension. The endpoint here, first click to the endpoint here, second click, third click to set it. That needs to be 2. And the other dimension is from this endpoint to the corner. First click, second click, third click to set it, 6. And we're going to cut away everything on the right side. So finish sketch, extrude, choose that, switch to cut, and cut 2. Hit OK. And then the last part, we need another sketch on this face. And the line is from here to here. And this line is 3 off the bottom. And because the height is 6, that point, that's 3 off the bottom, is actually the center point of this edge. So we can get a green snap exactly on that center point, and we don't need to dimension that endpoint. We do need to dimension this endpoint, which is 5 from that corner. And that'll be an endpoint to endpoint dimension. And we'll get a line from here, first click, snap to the green center point, second click, just snap to the edge, not the center point here. And we need to dimension, like I said, the endpoint, this endpoint to the corner. That's strange, it doesn't give it. Okay, so we can dimension the other way, which it needs to be 2 from the edge this way. So we can dimension the distance from the endpoint of the line to the corner of everything. That needs to be 2. And we will finish sketch, extrude, choose what we want to cut, switch it to cut, cut all, hit OK. And how do you tile? And there you go. A through L, all done. Okay, and